Alright, so here we are. We're putting the A27077 boards, the CPU, and the hard disk controller. We're putting them both in the original chassis that they came in. We've done some repair to this, we changed the CRT, but other than that, this is the original chassis. We didn't have a keyboard, so the keyboard's not original, but we've had zero issues with that. As long as we plug it in, it works. So, you see here we're working with a physical ST-251. We've ditched the emulator entirely for now, other than to read this disk after we write stuff to it. I got this to work once. Let's see if we can get it to work again all the way through in one take. All the way through in one take. Reproducible results are very valuable. Okay. So, that being the case, here we go. We're just going to power on. We're going to format this drive, and we're going to install the whole thing using the exact same parameters we did before, all in one take. Listen to that. Definitely a good seek. Alright, so for right now we're running the AWS initialization disk. This one right here. I'm expecting this to work because it did before. There we go, good. We've had no problems to speak of per se with the emulation of the floppy disk. That seems to work rather naturally, as long as the emulator responds, which gets a little glitchy sometimes. Once it's responding, it seems to work without any issues, just like it's a physical disk. As a matter of fact, I think it saved us from destroying one of the disks because it wrote to some bad stuff during a crash once. Wrote bad stuff, and all we had to do was change the emulator file back to the original. Init! AWS standalone. Go on the defaults. Go again. Alright, so here's where we got to put in some stuff. Surface tests, for now, 0. My test after this, after I sleep, is going to be to leave it alone and it'll do all 8 surface tests. But debug is always yes. See if it tells us anything, but I don't expect it to. NGen hard disk type code. This is very important. 820 cylinders, 6 heads, and 16 sectors per track, which is what the ST-251 is. It's actually 17 sectors per track, but we're putting in 16. Ask me why later. CPRO will help us figure out why, other than the fact that it doesn't like 17 and it does like 16. It's all I know. It's all I know. For now. We'll explain more later. Especially if we can reproduce these results. These glorious results. And go. As it's formatting, I should mention, when I originally formatted this on the Unix PC, it did find one bad sector. On around track. You know, I'm actually going to look it up again because I just had it here. There it is. That was it. It was a bad. It's on cylinder 149, track 4, sector 8. Now it's sector 8 of 17, not sector 8 of 16, because we formatted this as 17 sectors on the Unix PC. The Unix PC does not like 16 sectors. Conversely, the AWS does not like 17 sectors. Go figure. Anyway, we get this to work, we'll do some experiments with 17, just to see. But I don't think it's going to work. Anyway, cylinder 149, track 4, sector 8. That is the one that gave us a problem right there. On the Unix PC. That's a screen grab from the Unix PC, not the AWS. We're using the Unix PC for testing. Wall Unix here in the lab. Motherboard's tacked to the wall. It's great. AT&T Unix PC 3B1. PC 7300. It goes by many names. Convergent called it the S50 when they branded it themselves, and there's a few others that I've logged online over the years at unixpc.blogspot.com if you want to look them up. Yes, this contains 0 bad sectors because I told you not to check the surface. So we're going to go with that. Write those volume structures on the disk. Interestingly, we never saw this on the other ones. Come on, you can do it! Yeah! That's what I like to see. What's our time? We are 9 minutes in. Okay, go. Go, go, go. Load that stuff. We went through this last time, not a single error. Not one. Now I'm going to point out where it crashed all the time with the emulated hard drive. Basically, it went through this process completely, and it failed on reboot. We just didn't know that it failed on a reboot until we got it to actually work. Excellent. Keep going. I like this. Even though I can do this with the emulated hard drive, we're getting close to the point where we halted. Alright, this is it. Bootstrap 10.2. It would get to the place where it would reboot from here. And then it would crash on the emulator. ERC-341. After it goes blank here up to track 29. 27, 28, 29 on the floppy. Reboot. But, wait for it. We don't see ERC-341, no. Now we're past where we ever got with the emulator. Past. Notice it says some things here we've never seen before. To continue installation of standard software. Type in the username as before, init, to continue your initialization. Update to update, remote to update. No, we're continuing initialization, and we have an option we've never seen before. Number 4, insert diskettes 1 through 3 when prompted. So I'm going to follow instructions. I want to continue my initialization, so I'm going to type in init, I-N-I-T, and go. Never could do this with the emulator or any other machine. Look at that. Insert disk 1, and it blinks. I know you can't see it. Let's see if that helps. See it? It blinks. Isn't that fancy? Press go when ready. Yeah. Now, we had some difficulty. I had a lot of deliberation. It says remove the disk from floppy drive and insert the standard software distribution diskette 1 of 3. Now, I had some trouble figuring out which that was, but my guess was actually correct because there was some ambiguity. The correct answer, going right to it, is actually these. Now, to add to the confusion, the first one, the label's torn off. But by default, with the rest of the set that we got on eBay earlier this year in March, I think, we figured it out. I figured it out, I suppose. It's 10.2 standard software, and it doesn't say, it says standard software, it looks for distribution here. It says distribution diskette 1 of 3. Well, it's not exactly what it says. Exactly what it says is 10.2 standard software, software utilities diskette 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and 3 of 3. Well, I now know, because I tried it and it worked, that this is 1 of 3. And by default, it's the only one with the label missing. And so it's also the only disk where we're missing the 1 of 3. And so anyway, that was very logical to put that together. Turns out it's actually right. So it's not the distribution, standard software distribution diskettes. It's the standard software utilities diskettes. Slightly different, but you know, you got to read between the lines with Convergent and then guess and get lucky, and God knows what the deal is. All right, let's change the disk, and I'm going to do so on the emulator here. And I'm going to change to standard software 1. All right, so 10.2 standard software 1, and go. Here we go. Look at this. This is just going to go for a while. That's our time. 17 minutes. I took a minute or 3 to explain what was going on there, so it's a little bit longer than it needs to be for the actual time. But we're just rolling on 18 minutes on the video now. Not a single error, which is what just overjoys me. I don't know how to do it in any other environment with any other hardware that I have at all. But I can do it with this, and so far, this is the second time I'm able to do it. So I can reproduce the results with these very narrow parameters, very specific arrangement of things. Of course, I'm going to want to find out why none of the others work and this does. And I mean none of the others work. I don't have a wide selection of physical hard drives. We have an infinite number of emulated ones. But I cannot get the emulated one to do this. Even after I'm done with this, I'm going to say this. Even after I did this the last time, of course the first thing I did was I imaged that hard drive, the physical one, and then I tried to run the image to see if it would boot from the image. It wouldn't. But I put the physical hard drive on, booted up just fine. It was really quite amazing. So it is not liking the emulator. At least this one is objecting to the emulator. This particular hardware is objecting to the emulator. The others may not be, because I'm getting consistent results between physical hard drive and emulated hard drive. But on this one, I'm getting completely successful results with physical hard drive and specific points of failure, emulated hard drive. At least with this process, we're demonstrating again. And we're going to take it all the way, baby. All the way. case you're wondering what the music is in the background, that's Hearts of Space. Hearts of Space, and we're listening to program number 1132, Polar Flight 2. Hearts of Space at HOS.com. So far, YouTube hasn't flagged me for any copyright on this particular mix, which is why I'm playing it in the background. Either because it's so soft it can't hear it, or it's really not getting me any copyright flags. So let's cross our fingers and hope this one doesn't either. Look at this beautifulness. Volume status.run. One of the things I noticed when this started working is F0 is the floppy, and it seems to be sys is the hard drive. I'm guessing, except to other situations we see where D0 is the hard drive, so I'm not exactly sure how well that works out. Okay, we doing something here? Yeah, we're still working. We're still working. Look at that. Still working. Oh, look at that. Insert disk 2. See? And it's blinking. See? Isn't it cool? I worked for weeks at this and never saw anything that sophisticated. So I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked. Standard 2. Disk 2. We've switched over to it. Go. ATE.run. What is that? Good question. It's clearly liking the diskettes, so I chose properly. I chose the proper disk images. Yes, I did. Partition status. P-log. Okay. Partition log maybe? Just based on context, who knows? User file editor, that seems important. Look at that. Insert disk 3. Blinky go when ready. Blinky go. Yeah. All right. So, standard 3, set, in the emulator, and go. Restore.run. That seems like an important one. Queue manager is probably important too. Selective backup. It's good to be able to select what you back up. Personally, I like to back up everything, but it's not always possible, especially when space is at a premium, as it was in the early 80s. Spooler. Let's spool up those jobs. Oh, yes. How's our time? We are at 27 minutes. 28. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's done. It is done. Initialization of system volume complete. We've never thought I'd see this day. At least not this soon. Remove the diskettes from the floppy drive. Well, I can take the file out, take the SD card out of the emulator. Sure. A cluster local file system, single partition configuration of the operating system is installed on your system volume. Yeah! Yes! To install a different operating system configuration, insert the appropriate operating system distribution disk and type install go. Well, not ready to do that yet, that's for sure, but it makes another suggestion that I absolutely followed through on. If you will be using this workstation as a software development system, that seems appropriate after all this. Insert the software development utilities diskette 1 of 2 and type install go. So I figured out which ones those were too. And, well, where are they? Right here. So again, software development utilities. A little bit of a naming convention difference. What do we have? So it's actually standard software development. The word utilities isn't in there. But we do have the correct number of disks, 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. So the fact that we have 1 of 2 here, yep, that's the right one. So let's flip the emulator floppy disk file over to dev1. And there we are, dev1. It's poised and ready to go in the emulator there. And so we're going to go to install. And we're going to hit go. And it continues. Clunking of a physical hard drive. You know, emulation is great when it works, but you really miss the clunking of the physical hard drives, and I think the ka-chunking of the floppy too. We might actually try to make some floppy disks just to get the experience once we get this going, because the whole vintage experience is just really important. I mean, why else do we do this, right? Okay. If this is a remote installation, which it isn't, deactivate the debugger and execute the log out command on all workstations that are bootstrapped from the master. That's not relevant here because we've got one standalone machine. If the master is an AWS, IWS, or NGen workstation, it's an AWS, deactivate the debugger and execute the logout command at the master. Well, it's not a workstation. It's a master. Okay? To deactivate the debugger at a workstation, press Action A. If you hear a beep, the debugger is already deactivated, and you are done. Otherwise, press Code K twice.